Hi, how are you? And welcome back. It's really nice to be with you again. We're here to talk about some retrogrades that are happening, and we've got two planets, both in the sign of Capricorn. We have Pluto and we have Saturn going into retrograde, and almost simultaneously. Pluto goes into retrograde today. On the 29th, Capricorn will go into retrograde. Capricorn will be in retrograde until the middle of September. Pluto will be in retrograde until the middle of October. So they're going to be simultaneously in retrograde in the same sign of Capricorn. And so that's going to be quite interesting for some of us. So Capricorn is the patriarchal sign of the zodiac, and normally it's a lot to do with, well, I think institutional structure and power structures, power balances, and this is Capricorn. Capricorn really like to be organized. They're an earth planet that has to do with things that take place on the physical plane, and it's a lot to do with the organizations and society around us. So that's Capricorn. Now, what's interesting about having Pluto and Saturn go retrograde together is Pluto, interestingly enough, is about hidden meanings, deep unknown meanings, not just little things that we're slightly aware of. This is really going deep dive and not being aware of it. But in particular, when we go into retrograde, it's really about our hidden desire, and if you like, our hidden intention behind the desire for power and the hidden triggers for fear. So this is really a interesting retrograde for those of us who've been dealing and having a look at those sort of issues. And some of us have had to face some of those with the supermoons and the eclipses. So what's going to be happening is it gives us a really nice opportunity to become really aware of those hidden aspects of us that are forcing us to be power hungry or have a desire for power. There's nothing wrong with having a desire for power, and I'm going to particularly put that out there for women. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But all of these things, it's the intent behind the desire for power that is important. And it's the intent that's going to be highlighted by the Pluto retrograde. The other aspect that's going to be highlighted is, like I said, the trigger behind our fears. So if we've got both power and fear being our chief motivators for a lot of our behaviors, and we don't have a good understanding of what is driving either that desire for power or that our fears, then this is when we don't have control of them. And worse than not having control of them, they are in the driving seat for us. I mean, fear is a very healthy condition, so I'm not saying we all need to live without fear. I mean, fundamentally, primarily, fear keeps us alive on the most basic of physical level. But fear also is a major driver for many of us, and that's also a good thing. But what I'm asking you to do, and what Pluto in retrograde is asking you to do, is name what is behind, what is the trigger, what is the intention, what is driving the desire for power or for fear. And then once we name it, we can master it. Then we can make conscious decisions about, is this working for us? Is this not working for us? And that's fundamentally then when you are in the driving seat of your life. Because if you've got hidden desires and hidden fears, and they're driving you without you being aware of them and without you being fully aware of what the intention or the triggers are, then you are basically within those parameters out of control. And what we're wanting for all of us is to be in control, to be in the driving seat, and to not have these massive mood swings, because it's the massive mood swings that really set us off on the wrong path, take us into the path of self-sabotage, and really make it difficult for people to be around us. So we want to be in control of all of that. So that's Pluto. And remember that that's all happening in the patriarchal sign of organization and structure around us. So you can expect at work power struggles. You can expect perhaps in relationships power struggles. So you can actually expect in a lot of your dealings power struggles, or vice versa, for conversations to be led and to be responded to through fear. So you know this is coming. You've been forewarned. So keep an eye out for that in your dealings, particularly with your colleagues at work, particularly if you're dealing with institutions and needing permission for someone, and those sorts of things like planning permits, councils, state bodies, ruling bodies. You need to be aware and understanding about this deep desire for power that's going to be exposed, as well as fears. The nice thing about us for Pluto is, I said at the beginning, is a slow moving planet. So this is going to be quite a gentle reveal. It's not going to be such a in your face, coming ready or not. It's going to be a nice gentle reveal. So that's going to make life just a little bit easier for us. So just be aware of your own behavior and be prepared to check it if it's not coming from a good intent. And then you can also be aware of someone else's behavior. So that's Pluto. Side by side, what we've got happening on is Capricorn. Capricorn going into retrograde. Now Capricorn in retrograde, and remember Capricorn has a lot to do with our careers and how we make money, and when it goes into retrograde, what happens, it's our planning. We get to have a good look at our decisions, about our plans, about how things are moving forward. So we've been spending a lot of time leading up to this, musing about different ideas. We've now had Mercury going forward, so last week we had a lot more focus and clarity about decisions, about our choices, and about where we wanted to go with that. So that's all been really, really good. So now what's happening is we're coming into Capricorn. So Capricorn is going to say to you, okay, you thinking this is a really good idea? Let's see what the planning is and what the planning needs to be to make this idea come into fruition. So this is Capricorn in retrograde. So it's going to help us to re-examine our goals and to re-examine our planning. The only time you need to fear retrograde and Saturn halting, going forward and halting your plans, is when we haven't done the due diligence in the first place. So you might find yourself being extra cautious about making decisions. You might be extra cautious about your plans, but let's face it, that's actually a really, really good thing. So you might find that things that you put into place that you thought were locked down, you might get a phone call, hey, can we meet and have another look at that? And that's all of a Capricorn in retrograde. So that's really quite good about that. The other thing with Capricorn being the place for the retrograde is that this time there's going to be an additional element of seriousness and an additional element of discipline. So we're really going to be pushed to examine areas where we're not being disciplined and to take that quite seriously. The opportunity in this, and this is fantastic, the opportunity in this with Pluto and with Capricorn in the retrograde, Pluto and Saturn both in retrograde in Capricorn, is it's going to give you the opportunity and the push, if you like, to re-examine your fears, re-examine your uneasy and would you say desires for power. What I mean by uneasy is kind of like this hunger as opposed to a natural sense of justice or capability. So where you've got a hunger for power and where you've got unidentified fears, these two together can often be our undoing, and particularly when it comes to self-sabotage. So the opportunity for these two retrogrades for this period over the 4 or 5 months in Capricorn is we get a chance to have a look at how we might be sabotaging ourselves through our fears that are hidden and we don't understand the trigger, and a hunger for power. And this hunger for power being again undefined and the intention not being clear. It's just this drive for us. And these often push us to extremes of behavior, and where we move away from our goals and our plans and our being rational, and we're just completely reacting on an emotional level. And that's often when we get into self-sabotage. So that's the opportunity, and I think that's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us in terms of our personal growth. So great. And the other thing with Saturn is also a big planet, and it's very slow moving. So again, this will be a very gentle exfoliation of, if you like, of our fears and our exposure of our fears. And that's really, really nice to do. So we're going to be pushed to do some rethinking, some recalculating, a really hard analysis of our decisions. We're going to be quite serious about things, and we're going to have to be quite disciplined. And the two of them together, Pluto and Capricorn in retrograde, Saturn in retrograde, the two of them together is really going to enable us to have a look at where we're self-sabotaging each other. And that's lovely, but it's going to be gentle. We're going to have time to reach an understanding, and it's going to be quite a nice time in terms of releasing a lot of stuff that's been holding us back, right? You can't release anything until you can name it, and you can be quite clear about it. And then you can decide, in all honesty, which aspects of that you need to release and which aspects of that you need to keep, because a little bit of fear is healthy, and a little bit of a push for control and power is also healthy. All right, certainly not talking about abdication. Okay. On the 1st of May, I'm just going to give you one more little point, which is a lovely point. Uranus is going to semi-square Neptune, and this is actually very, very nice, and it's going to finish off the work that Uranus and Neptune have been doing with each other, which actually started way back in May 2017. And what that's been doing is pushing us in terms of our career and our planning and our life plans to remove ventures and ideas that are not suitable, are not sustainable, and really are not on your path. So what's nice about that is, remember, we've got Saturn in retrograde. So what's going to happen with Saturn in retrograde in this semi-square with Neptune, Uranus and Neptune, is you're going to see the things that just don't make sense from a planning perspective, that just don't make sense in terms of aligning with your personal goals. With Pluto in retrograde, you're going to see those things that you may have been chasing, and chasing those goals either driven by a need for power, and that need being unsustainable and not having a solid intent, or a fear. So, and that fear being triggered by something that again is not positive but a lack or a want. So that's all something that's very, very nice. So you can probably expect some clarities on the 1st, and maybe, and again, you know that these things happen on the 1st, but you need to allow a day before and a day after. So what you can probably expect is around the 1st, things that are not meant to be will start to be exposed in that way, or they'll just disappear from your path. Okay. So the other nice thing about that as well around the 1st is that you can expect some insights and some inspirations on some new ideas, some new ventures, some tweaking of your current business plan, which is going to take you that little step further. Okay, so that's what's happening with all of that, which is nice, right? I'm really looking forward to Pluto and Saturn being in retrograde together in Capricorn, because I do want to get rid of old fears that have no place in my new life, and I do want to get rid of areas where I need to overcompensate by really being hungry for power. I'm not so much looking forward to working with people who may still be in those positions, but hey, at least I know what's happening when I interact with them, right? I've been forewarned. And I certainly am looking forward to, at the beginning of May, getting great clarity about what makes sense and what I should go forward with in terms of my plans on the physical plane, and also getting rid of those things that I thought would be good for me, or I teased around with and they proved to not to be. All right, so that's going to be the next 3 or 4 months with Pluto and Saturn in retrograde, and I'll come back to see you soon about what's happening in the sky. And the second video I'll put up will be the tarot around these change in energies, just to see what the tarot has to add about either clarity or advice. All right, thank you for spending time with me. Have a wonderful day. See you soon. Bye. Okay.